Look, well, let's not stand on ceremony, mate. Let's start the show.
Welcome to another episode of Squared Talk, brought to you by the 710 Squared Network. And I got my co-host, Ro. What's happening?
Oh, man, a little bit of everything. I'm going to tell you something. Well, a lot of people must be listening to this show because I've seen several CBD oil businesses setting up shop recently. So it just goes to show you that our reach is vast and broad.
Yeah, I saw a couple in Laurel.
Yeah.
I saw some new dispensaries. I've seen some bunch of stuff happening in Laurel, Burtonsville. So yeah, things are moving.
I came across an article earlier in which some executives are leaving mainstream corporations to join fledgling CBD startups.
Oh,
to
really?
Get them up and it's because that type A personality is looking for a challenge. And if you've been with a mainstream corporation, I mean, it's, they call those golden handcuffs. You got such a good deal there that you don't want to go, but there's no challenge. You guys want to build something, want to break new ground. So it's just what they're looking for, new market. It hasn't really been a new market in quite some time. So this is it. Those guys want to get out there and make their mark on a new industry, and this is the opportunity.
Awesome. That is not surprising because anybody with a vision will see that this thing is gonna take off. And right now you're at the perfect time. You're at where alcohol was right before Prohibition ended. So
yeah.
So this is definitely the time to jump ship, I think.
It's funny you mentioned alcohol because there's various type of alcohol. There's liquor and wine and all the rest of it. But you have a category called liqueurs.
Yeah.
And maybe about 10 years ago, and I quit drinking, so I don't know what's going on now.
That makes two of us.
There was this explosion of all these liqueurs. You had Tuwaka, which was like a vanilla citrusy type of infused flavor. You got, you had what's that one that tastes like Atomic Fireball? One that tastes like an Atomic Fireball anyway. Then Godiva had like a chocolate liqueur, and there's all these just different takes on an alcoholic beverage, but really for the flavor of it to enhance a beverage or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so making a parallel in the CBD market. There's room for all of that,
Well, you already got all these amazing sounding and tasting and even smelling cannabis flavors. I mean, to me, it's actually an amazing feat of science when you think about it, because you have these people basically come up with scents, almost like they're coming up with a perfume. Or tastes where you have people cooking with cannabis, and it's like, okay, well, I want a lemon zesty type of taste, and they can grow that. I want to smoke something that feels like an orange. They can grow that. Snoop was on his show GGN with I think it was Be Real, and he brought in this new cannabis strain, I guess, that he has or he's growing or whatever, and Snoop took a hit, and the first thing he said was, he's like, wow, this is like sucking on an orange. And that just blows my mind when you think of the fact that this plant did not start out like that. This plant didn't come in different flavors.
Yeah, but I mean, then that begs the question, okay, what chemical or genetic modification process did you introduce to it to make that happen?
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, because the whole crux of this thing was something that's healthy and beneficial for you. But if you're gonna start, adding all this stuff to it, you might as well stick with pharmaceuticals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, because we still don't know
know.
the effects of these changes.
No, and you probably won't, because ain't nobody gonna admit they did it. It's like that Roundup lawsuit. They fought that for a long time. Now they got to admit, yeah, we gave you cancer. Sorry about
No, but
that.
you know what's amazing about the Roundup? It's still on the shelf.
Oh yeah, it's too much. It's too much money invested in that. If they take that down, there's a lot of people going out of business. I read one article where a landscaper. Well, I heard. I'm sorry. This guy was talking about he asked his landscaper not to use Roundup on his property, and the landscaper almost wanted to argue with him about it, because that's just been the go-to anti-weed agent for so long. Weed, as in
Yeah,
real
yeah,
weed, not marijuana.
yeah, yeah.
That's been the way they've dealt with weeds and beautifying your lawn for so long that it's almost as if they don't know how to do it any other way. And this guy had to argue with his landscaper that he did not want to, because he has kids and they play in the grass and stuff. So yeah, it's like banks being too big to fail. Certain things in this economy, like Roundup. Because they're using that in agriculture. That's everywhere, and it's almost as if they can withstand a $700 million judgment and stay in business.
But I guess what's amazing is the fact that we already knew it caused cancer, but in this country, it's when it's officially declared that something causes cancer, and everybody goes, "Ooh, it causes cancer." It's like, yeah, we knew that before the declaration, but
Yeah.
you needed legal confirmation, and yet
So
it's still on the shelf, and you have lawyers who were actually for the plaintiffs suing Roundup, saying, when that point was brought up, saying, well, it's like cigarettes, they now know that it causes cancer and it's their choice if they want to buy it. I said, but to me, that's ridiculous. To me, if you know something is detrimental, why is it allowed? You banned weed, and weed doesn't do that to people. I couldn't go to Home Depot and buy some weed. I couldn't go to CVS and buy some weed, and that wasn't killing anybody. But something that we know for a fact causes deadly cancer that kills people, and the response is tobacco. Hell, tobacco, we know for a fact kills people, and yet it was left. I just don't understand the logic behind that.
And one of the big differences between tobacco and something like Roundup is, if you smoke a cigarette, you can go stand in a corner and walk down the street. You're not really bothering me. But when you spray that chemical, it seeps into the water table, and now everyone's getting a little dose. So that's really
And it's
not even a
cumulative.
good art. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
the more
And
that.
it just reminds me of DDT back in the 70s.
Yeah.
That it was as if that was the same thing.
Then the flies adapt to that after a while, where like you couldn't kill them with DDT anymore.
I'm not sure about
I
that.
remember that because basically that's how they basically don't even hear about it anymore, is because the flies genetically mutated, and basically they stopped dying from um, you know getting sprayed with that.
Well, it's not surprising, because bacteria are adapting to the antibiotics. And they're making these strains of superbugs because they're overprescribing and overutilizing antibiotics.
Yeah.
And so nature has a way of adapting to things that are synthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not surprising.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, but that's the natural order of things. I mean, life is so resilient that if we ever could harm ourselves or remove ourselves from the planet would be here and be just fine.
Yeah, the planet would restore itself.
Yeah.
Like no more fossil fuels, no more polluting the rivers and the oceans, and it would just restore itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. On another note, I see New York has decriminalized marijuana possession.
Yeah, I saw that. So now what are they going to do for their arrest quotas?
Well, that's what I was about to ask. I was like, what about all the people who were arrested and who are in lockup or jail or prison for this law that's now been decriminalized? Do they all get out? How does that work?
if they file an appeal and fight for 2.5 years each, they probably got a chance of getting out.
Okay, but if it's now legal or decriminalized, then why shouldn't they automatically be released?
Because they would affect somebody's profit margin.
Well, there we go.
I mean, the dirty little secret about innocent until proven guilty in an American criminal justice system is it comes down to money. You know, if you can buy your way out with a great team of lawyers, and the right palm degrees, you can. And if you can't, then you're going to have to earn your way out through being a body on a roster and making sure that prison or jail is at maximum occupancy, which is part of the deal to put it in any city. You know, it all comes down to money. You know, I had a horrifying thought the other day that everything in this world, basically at this point, only exists to screw you over and screw you out of your money and rip you off. You know,
I think
90%.
I think that is actually quite accurate, and I think that it's getting worse because now you have the people doing evil. They can come out and say, "Hey, you trying to shame me for trying to get my money?" And you know that's the climate we're in now, where it's just about expediencies. There's no standards anymore. It's just do whatever you need to do. If you can get away with it, you get away with it. If there's a legal loophole, you use that, even though it's morally deplorable.
And it's so much money.
Doesn't seem to matter anymore as long as the money is significant.
And there's so much money being made that it doesn't even matter if you get sued anymore and lose a major judgment. It's almost like it's the price of doing business. You know, like you need a certain license to be in this business, or you got to pay a certain a fee every year to be in this business. And in this business, you get sued twice a year and lose, and it's okay because you're making so much money. Who cares?
Yep, because that's also how they're going to keep people out of the cannabis business, because the license fees and the barriers to entry are so high that they're trying to discourage people who are already in it from legally entering the market or re-entering the market because they were already in it, which is what's going to keep the black market going, because the black market hasn't gone anywhere.
No, and I'm almost happy it still exists. I don't know how I wouldn't want to live in a world without a black market. To me, that almost represents real freedom. Like, you know, you can set whatever price and whatever regulations you want, but some of us are still going to do it our way. You know, we're still going to do it our way down here like this, and you do what you want to do up there, and we're going to do it like we want to do it down here. You know, I mean, I like that freedom of choice. You know, I like a lot of, like New York recently passed a law where some restaurants and stores are going cashless. Like you have to use some type of electronic, you know, debit or credit card or app on your phone. Yeah. So New York recently said that's illegal, and of course it's illegal.
Oh, they did.
I mean, $1. Yeah,
good.
Yeah, they did that. But you know what I'm saying? Like $1, money is legal tender. Right? You can't say I can't use money in this country, you know, but...
Well, you see, they're doing that so they can track you, because they don't like the fact that cash has always been untraceable.
But you know what the real... I agree with that on an upper echelon, but for a guy with a little store selling, you know, sandwiches or whatever, or you know, tacos, you know what the real reason is?
What's that?
These young kids that take those jobs, they can't count money. So what they do is because they think, you know, in the schools now, they don't teach, well, we know they don't teach home economics. They don't teach you how to cook or manage a home or set up a budget. They don't teach auto mechanics. They don't teach wood shop. They don't teach any real usable skills. But recently they stopped teaching kids how to write cursive. They stopped teaching kids how to tell time on an analog timepiece, you know, like a watch or a clock with hands, you know, small hand, big hand type of thing. And they don't teach children currency anymore. They don't teach kids dollars $5 bill, $10 bill, dime, quarter, nickel, penny. They don't teach them that. They don't practice that. So you got 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds who don't understand cash. So they are swiping card. Well, now you got a chip. You got to insert your card. They got Apple Pay. Everything is just happening, and you never once take out money, hand it over, and ensure you got the right amount of money back. So remember back in the day, you pay for something, the guy would count the money back to you and hand it to you in your hand.
Yeah. Now the machine does that.
No, now if you go to a place with a machine, the machine will spit out your coins like it's on a little roller coaster. It slides all the way down to a little bowl at the bottom, and they'll hand you the money. But something they do now is where they don't have that type of machinery. They'll take the paper money and put it in the palm of their hand, and they'll take the coins and pile it up on top of the paper money, and they'll do this balancing act where they try to hand you all this going on and slide it into your hand without dropping it all on the floor.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's annoying.
It's bizarre because they almost get mad at you. Look, my debit card, I just got hacked again 2 weeks ago, right? And so somebody got me. And whenever they do, this is like the 5th time in 3 years, right? And somebody went in there and bought some goofy. I bought a damn $400 sleeping bag or something stupid, So the bank is good about they shut it down and give you your money back and everything. But I went back to cash like we used to do back in the day, cash, right? And so spending cash, the cashier gets mad at you when you hand them cash because they have to do this thing that's so uncomfortable with and unfamiliar with. It's easy just to hand you the receipt after you do your card or your Apple Pay or whatever it is. But when you hand them cash, they've actually got to do that whole process, and they get irritated.
Mm-hmm.
And then they look at it like it's from another planet, like, it's a meteorite that just crashed in the middle of the store and cracked open and some green slime came pouring out. Like, they're looking at this, and then they lay it all out, and then they do they hit the key on the register, and the register spits up in the cash drawer. And then they're looking at this money and looking at the cash drawer and looking at the screen will tell you how much to give you back. They're not even doing any computation. Like, I owe you $1.75. They're not doing any computation. They're trying to figure out what $1.75 is in physical money. The problem 10 years ago was they couldn't do the math. If the register messed up, they couldn't do the math and figure out how much to give you back, even with a piece of paper and a pen. Now they're looking at these physical items. This paper money and these coins, and they're trying to figure out, okay, what the quarter is at 25, the dime is at 10.
Wow, that's ridiculous, though.
But that's what's happening. And a lot of stores that hire younger people in those type of positions, restaurants and stores and stuff, they were having so much trouble with that they just said we don't take cash. And when you work the register at a bar or a restaurant, when it comes up short, they take that out of your paycheck because you want to register.
Yeah.
So you got people every 2 weeks ain't missing $300, $200 off their check because they can't do the currency properly. So, you're right on one end of it. At the highest level of it, they want to track and tax everything, so they want to go cashless. Matter of fact, it's almost like the movie Enemy of the State with Will Smith. When you piss them off, they just cut off everything. Your ass is out there.
But that's what they want. They want.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't like the fact that a lot of cannabis people can't, they're not putting their money in the bank because, the banks aren't taking it. But you've had these other industries that have popped up where you have these POS systems that connect to these storage places that basically store all the money for you, and almost like its own cannabis banking system, which the government doesn't like because, again, it's not tied into FDIC and the regular way that they're used to monitoring and controlling the money.
Yeah. But the one thing that gives me comfort is our government is not one monolithic entity that's all on the same page. It's highly fragmented at this point, more so now than I think ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we have like Wow, recently some Navy SEALs were recalled from, I think, Afghanistan. They were said to have some disciplinary problems, and they were doing a little too much over there, so they recalled them. But when we send these Green Berets or Navy SEALs or whoever, Marine Raiders, into places like Mali or Djibouti, CIA guys, Defense Intelligence Agency guys, when we send them into these places, they go with a stack of cash because they're buying off informants, they're buying off intelligence assets, they're buying off guides, they're buying off. They just are throwing a lot of cash around to get set up and to get people's help.
Yeah, we saw that in Iraq.
Yeah, yeah, Mali, Djibouti, El Salvador, everywhere. This is how they operate. They just go, when during the invasion of Iraq, you had guys from Third Infantry Division taking cities and finding stacks and vaults of American money just sitting up. So a lot of millionaires came back from the war. You know what I'm saying? Millionaires overnight because they found a lot of American money in Iraq and in the weirdest of places. But
how'd they get it back into the country?
Oh, well, you can do it. I mean, you can make anything happen if you would like to. There was a story the other day at I forget which airport, but a guy had a rocket launching tube. Oh. He was an Air Force guy, and he was bringing. They were reported it as he had a rocket launcher. I saw it. That ain't no damn rocket launcher, but it is a tube that a missile fires from. I think it was on one of those multiple launch rocket systems the Army has, but it was a tube.
He just checked that in with his bag on Delta, huh?
No, he was trying to bring it with him. They said, "What the hell is this?" And they reported it as he had a rocket launcher. It wasn't a rocket launcher, but it is a tube that the rocket fires from on a vehicle. But I mean, people are bringing stuff back all the time. I mean, if you're the supply guy and you're or the logistics guy and you're packing up a particular unit to bring them home, that guy says, "Hey man, I want to bring this AK-47 back home that I killed this guy and took it off of him. Here's a couple bucks or whatever you need. I want to bring this thing home." Sure, why couldn't they put it in the backseat of the Hummer? Who would notice? It's just like there's this deal in Florida now where there's prison guards were beating the hell out this guy and damn near beat him to death. But the prisoners had a cell phone and streamed it online, and everybody saw it and raised hell. So now the prison has to do an investigation and bring charges against this prison guard. But they've been doing that forever, beating the shit out of people they don't like. And so there's always a way to do stuff when you have an organization. Mm-hmm. But I just take solace in the fact that as long as we have a significant and powerful part of the United States federal government that likes to have cash to do dirt with, we're going to have cash for a while.
Yeah. Well, we're almost halfway into the hour. You want to go ahead and plug our sponsor?
Yeah, I got so caught up on the perils of debit card versus cash that I forgot that we actually have some people we're accountable to right now. So, yes, folks, want to thank our sponsors, the good folks at New Maroon Naturals. You can find them at NEWMAROON naturals.com, featuring the finest in Caribbean-based healthcare products, everything from root strings calibrated for men and women and children, as well as sea moss products. Now, a lot of people are familiar with sea moss products, but they're getting the powdered form. They grind up the sea moss. They take it fresh out the ocean. They grind it up into a powder. It stinks. It tastes bad, and it's supposed to be good for you. The good folks at New Maroon Naturals are providing the sea moss in its gel form. It's been prepared. It's pleasant. It's clean. It doesn't smell bad. You could add it to your recipes, your sauces, your gravy. You can put it on your salad. You can add it to your smoothie. Sea moss presents 91 of the 102 minerals that a human being is composed of. So anybody that's trying to add great nutrition to their diet should investigate these products. I've been using that root strength they have for the men. It's called Resurrection.
And I've been using the sea moss. So
it lives up to its name.
Better than drinking the powder, which tastes and smells like sand. So
yeah. I think they'd smash that stuff fresh out the sea with the plastic and whatever else is attached to it and grind it up and give it to you. But the good folks at New Maroon Naturals have a love and a passion for what they do, and they want to help everyone return to their natural state of health. So definitely check them out. I've been using that root strength they have, and I'm a brand new man, if you know what I mean. So check them out, NEWMARON, naturals.com, and return to your natural state of health.
Awesome. Shout out to New Maroon Naturals.
Yeah, we appreciate the support over here.
Awesome. So what's going on internationally in the world of cannabis?
I saw an interesting article, and I think, it's we may have painted a doom and gloom picture of the CBD market during the past 20 minutes of the broadcast. We certainly didn't mean to do that, but it's definitely our responsibility to give people all the information they need about this market space. And if sometimes it sounds like doom and gloom, we don't intend that. And if you ride with us, we'll turn it around and make it make sense, which I'm fitting to do right now. We've talked about, secondary markets growing up around the CBD oil space. Mm-hmm. So people that grow cannabis need various supplies to do that, nitrogen and fertilizer and stuff like that. So there's all these other markets that are growing to support and to combine with CBD. So I come across an article that a Canadian CBD maker is sponsoring athlete research with the UFC. And a Canadian marijuana.
I heard
did you
about,
see that?
I didn't know who was doing it, but I did hear about that, because the problem was, again, Snoop had Dana White on GGN a while back, and they were talking about allowing marijuana usage, I think, with a specific fighter who was one of the Diaz brothers, I think Nick Diaz, who smokes a lot of weed. And Dana was complaining that he has to monitor him before his fights, because he can't seem to just forego the weed for a short time to qualify for the fight. So Snoop's argument was, well, wouldn't the weed help him relax and all this stuff? And Dana said, well, here's the problem. He said if he gets injured, if his arm gets popped in an arm bar, or his knee gets popped and he's on the weed, he might not feel it. And that might do even more damage. Or, he said, so there were a lot of injury-related things that the weed would basically would act as have a numbing effect. And that's why they were against it. So it's interesting to hear what you're saying now. So they found a new way to allow
well, here's what's actually going on. It's actually a tremendous opportunity for anyone in the health, personal training space, and with a physical therapist space. So here's the information is that a Canadian marijuana giant, Aurora Cannabis, is sponsoring a CBD research project with the UFC to determine if the cannabinoid, did I say that? Cannabinoid treatment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cannabinoid. Yeah. Bit of a tongue twister. If treatments are effective in treating pain and inflammation. The athlete's use of hemp products took off in 2018 when the World Anti-Doping Agency removed hemp-based products from the list of banned substances. So basically what they're going to do is, these guys are training to fight all the time, a lot of groundwork, a lot of wrestling, just a lot of strenuous endurance training, and you get a lot of inflammation and some chronic pain injuries, and they want to see if CBD can be used to make market and trackable improvements in these conditions. So that's good news, because if this works with UFC, it may not be long until you see it in the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball. And so for personal trainers out there, physical therapists out there, this is something you definitely want to pay attention to, because as soon as this thing becomes front page news, or as soon as one of these athlete, boxer or UFC fighter or NFL football player says, yeah, I had this problem, but I legitimately solved it with some physical therapy and some CBD oil, you're going to want to be able to jump into that space and bring it to your clients also.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that on that note, that is good news.
Yeah. So while the gatekeepers and the powers that be may be trying to, control things until they get everything they want out of it and let people have the crumbs, there's things like this that are money makers for people, because as soon as we know about this stuff because we dig in and look for stuff like this. The majority of people in the country don't know that this is going on, but when they find out in the next year or two, you want to be that personal trainer, physical therapist that can really bring it to them before they find someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those who are looking for opportunities in the cannabis industry, like Ro just said, there are a lot of ancillary services that people already in the industry need. So you don't necessarily have to be a grower or a dispensary. You could be a delivery driver. You could provide get a contract to provide the gloves and the sterile suits that the growers and the people at the packers and the people at the facilities use. You could be a CBD HVAC guy or a cannabis HVAC guy where you know the temperatures that the facility needs to keep the plant healthy. There's so many different areas that one can get into without having to be a grower or a dispensary in the cannabis market. Because those
and watch this. Hey, look, and if you and your auntie or your uncle, y'all been growing your own plants and been very successful, go ahead and make yourself a cannabis consultant and help these people grow their crops better.
Exactly. Even cannabis real estate agents. I saw there's one that's following the 710 Squared Instagram page. That's at 710 Squared on Instagram. And he basically finds facilities. His specialty is real estate, but real estate for cannabis businesses, whether that's a dispensary, whether that's a grower, or a store, that sells the paraphernalia, whatever it is. He helps you find a facility, a building, and he helps you with making sure that it's zoned properly. So you're not going to, basically after you sign the lease, you're not going to have people showing up and saying you can't have this type of business here, and all the little things that hinder a lot of people. So there's a lot of niche markets and niche skills. If you're already in a certain industry, if you now turn that into the cannabis niche, there's a lot of business opportunities there, which I think is great.
Yeah, a lot of things are going to grow up around this space, and if people just open their minds and stay open to filling those opportunities, people can do very well. We don't mean to paint a doom and gloom picture. We just want to tell you what's happening out there, but we will give you the other side of that coin. There's a tremendous amount of opportunities. Another one is that there's quite a few people who are starting CBD businesses with the intention of selling them to corporations who want to get into the space. Not to stay in the space long term, just to get it going and get a customer base and sell it off. Like people do with every other businesses. They do it with restaurants. They do it with contracting companies. They do a lot of that. So you can definitely get into a CBD specialty, and with the intention to sell it off, and continue to do things like that. If you really understand CBD and you live that lifestyle, you can just keep coming up with new stuff and selling it all. I mean, we make the joke about CBD salad dressing and CBD yum sauce and stuff, but why not?
Yeah, and to go into business mode for a second, you should always jump into a business with the end in mind. So basically, how does this story end? Does this end with you selling the business? Does this end with the business shutting down after you've reached a certain revenue stream or a certain profit margin has been crossed? How does it end? Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Most people jump into it and just think about the beginning. Maybe they think about the middle, or they'll just sort of wing it till they get to the middle and then just stay in the middle. And you ask them, say, okay, well, how does this story end? How do you want this business to end? Basically, do you want to sell it? Do you want to will it to your children? Do you want to close it down after a certain point, after you've made a certain amount of money? How does this end? And if you don't know that or you haven't thought about that, that's something you need to do, because then that changes your goals and your plans. 'Cause if you're trying to sell it, then it has to have certain parameters in order to be attractive to a corporation or somebody that wants to buy a business like that. So that means you're tailoring and you're working on grooming it to reach that goal of eventually selling it. So always start with the end in mind whenever you're launching a business.
Yeah, that's important. I didn't mean to insinuate that people just start doing stuff and think they can hustle it off.
No,
But
but they do though. They don't think about the stuff I just said. Most of them don't. Most
yeah,
people, if you
yeah,
ask them, say, "Well, how does this business end?" They'll look at you like, "What do you mean?" Well, how everything comes to an end. You're gonna come to an end. I'm gonna come to an end. How? What's your plan? What do you expect to have? How do you expect the story to end? And a lot of them haven't given that any thought.
yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact. That's just a fact.
I think that's most people don't
That's what I'm
think
saying.
like
Yeah,
that.
that's most people.
Yeah. But for people who are hustling off businesses like that, they definitely have structured things for that end result to sell it off. Unless they get in peril and want to do a short, sell everything off for less than it's worth just to get it off their plate. But that's not a wise move.
Yeah, but like I said, it's good to have a plan. It's good to set goals, and because then now you have something to follow. And you don't just feel like you're winging it, because that's what a lot of people do. They just get in and just wing it, and wing it day by day, and there's no actual set goals or plans or something that they're working towards. And these days, the years just fly by. Next, 2-3 years gone
That's
by,
very true.
and you have no plan. You just the business. It's almost like a ship that's on at sea, and you say to the captain, "Okay, what's the destination?" And he doesn't know, and you just
Yeah,
floating
yeah.
out there at
He's just
sea.
he's just enjoying sailing.
Exactly. Now, if that's the goal when you got on the ship, then by all means continue along that path. But most people, if you get into a ship, there's a plan. It's either to go out to sea for a while and then turn around and come back to the starting point,
Yeah.
or go from point A to point B. But I don't know too many people who would be happy to get on a ship and not know where it's going.
Yeah. Hell, I want to go on a cruise and they tell me where it's going. But all this goes back to what we were just talking about, education. Like,
Yeah.
your elementary education, you're not being taught things you really need to use. We're not teaching people how to start businesses, how to operate businesses. We're not teaching people these things. And at this point in our country, we don't even have a family tradition of entrepreneurship. All those corner stores are gone. All those community-based businesses are gone. They're all, everyone's got a day job. So logically, it's like, well, I create this product and I'll sell it and I'll make money and that's a business. But life rarely follows a logical course. So, that's why it's so important for people to get in contact with a consultant, like yourself, who can lay everything out on the table, all the stuff they never even thought of, identify all these pitfalls and just patches of just difficulty that just sap the energy out your soul, make you wonder why you started this shit in the first place.
Yeah,
It
because
takes something that.
we just speaking of education, we just launched a video. I think you watched it the other day.
Yeah, I
We
saw
were
that.
talking about the logos, and how your brand is not your logo, and naming. The process of naming, and how names aren't just sort of just thrown out there. There's actually a meaning behind it, and even checking to see if the name has already been registered or trademarked, so that way you don't have the legal team of some company who's already trademarked your brilliant idea for a name, coming after you. All that's in a video you can find on YouTube, on our YouTube page. So that education factor is definitely very important, because you want to make sure that you avoid as many pitfalls as you can. And some of these common ones can be easily avoided with just a little bit of education, a little bit of knowledge. So
Yeah, I think there's a romanticized view of entrepreneurship, and we always, whenever you hear one of these self-help guys, I'm not gonna name anybody, but they always talk.
name
I mean,
them.
I could. But, nah, well, let's wait a while. Let's wait a while. But they always talk about the mindset and the grind and the killer instinct, and don't hesitate, and and a lot of people tell you you don't need a plan. You don't need a full worked out plan. You just need to get started, and everything else will work out. But the one
No.
thing they never do is lay out these small details that are so very important that you don't know. Like, checking to see if your idea has already been trademarked by someone else. And then you put all this time and effort and money into something that you have to stop doing immediately when you receive a cease and desist letter. And no one's
Yep.
having that conversation at
Yep.
all. They're telling you, you got to be a killer. You got to be a lion. I don't hesitate. I attack. Rawr! You're getting all this stuff. Or you're getting someone's sob story. I used to be a heroin addict, but now I'm a multimillionaire and I have 37 employees because I realize I need to carpe diem. You don't, but you get that. And that's an important part of it once you have your ducks in a row. That's an important part of the mindset. But you got to get your ducks in a row first. You can't go out there and kill it, and you're standing on shaky ground.
Well, it's like these entrepreneurial movies, like Boiler Room and Wolf of Wall Street, and there's a ton of them. They romanticize the journey, but then they chop it down to size and they curate what they show you. They're not showing you them checking the name for a trademark. They're not showing you them doing all the little tiny menial tasks that you need to do to make sure you're legally compliant and that you're not going to end up in legal trouble down the line, or even just some of the secrets, the stuff that you people are watching, like, oh yeah, I watched that movie and this guy did this, and the stuff that he actually used to get where he is not in the movie.
Yeah.
It never is. And that's why I always tell people it's a movie, it's not a how-to.
Yeah.
Because
It's very true.
When you watch a how-to, they tell you all the nuts and bolts. Here's all the stuff that you need to screw in. Here's the type of screwdriver you're going to need. Here's the size of the bolts and the lug, and stuff that the movie is not going to talk about. They're just going to show you the thing bolted up, and he went from he didn't have it to, or it was scattered on the ground, to it being bolted up. They don't show you the process, what it took to go from parts and things on the ground, or even curating parts, and the challenges of that, and the challenges of putting something together with no instructions, because there's no instructions for entrepreneurship. Everybody's journey is different.
Yeah.
There's some basics. Yes, you're gonna need a screwdriver. You're gonna need to register your company. You're gonna need to figure out, if you're an LLC or a sole proprietorship or an INC. Those are basic things that you. But still, if somebody doesn't tell you, you're not gonna know.
Yeah, there's no way you're gonna know. Because that's not stuff you just stumble upon in casual conversation or interaction with people. It's just not stuff. And we're so. I don't know, something about America. We love this underdog story where this person comes from the bottom, and through their tenacity and grit, they beat the odds and make it. But then the other side of that story is once they make it, then we start tearing them down again. And so.
Yeah, that's true.
No, yeah, we do. I mean,
that's true.
We love an underdog until he's on top. Then we need to knock him back down and see if he can do it again or make room for someone else to be the underdog.
Well, I think because he's relatable when he's an underdog. And
yeah, but he's admirable when he's on top.
It's almost like he's your little secret when he's an underdog. It's almost like music, like musicians. We always like that musician that's coming up and has got the great songs, and we're like, oh yeah, y'all should listen to this guy. He's great. This and that. Oh, this girl, she's great. Then the minute they become Jay-Z and Beyonce, all of a sudden I was like, they're too big. I don't like the stuff they do anymore. I liked them back when they were coming up.
Speaking of musicians, how about Lil Nas X getting sued? because he stole a sample for what's that, Old Country Road from
Old
a
Town
Nine Inch
Road.
Nails song.
I heard that he what was I watching where they were talking about that? It was on ABC. Was Nightline or one of those shows, and
Yeah.
he bought he went on, I think, Envato.com, and he bought the tune or the sample, and he paid, I think, like $50 for it.
Yeah.
And because that's like the Twitter logo. A lot of people don't know that Twitter bird was a generic bird that was for sale in sites like Envato.com. And the guy bought it, except he just bought out the license where he's like, okay, I want to actually just exclusively own this. But he didn't pay that much. And when you think of what the Twitter logo now has become, where you see that bird.
Yeah.
So just like Wu-Tang's logo cost RZA, I think, $100. You know, and it's the most famous rap logo, you know, in the world. Actually, not even rap, just music. It's one of the most famous logos in music. So it's interesting. Maybe that guy that's suing Lil Nas X realized, hey, this guy's now made $20-something million off of this song. I should get more.
It's bigger than that. No, it's bigger than that. I mean, he's taken two artists' songs and just used it. And so one group is Nine Inch Nails, which is a huge group, especially back in the 90s. Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails was like a big deal in the 90s.
Yeah, I remember them. So is this for Old Town Road, or is it? I know he's released some other songs.
The beginning, it's like dun 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 dun. That part, that's right off the song, man. He just jacked him for that song. Yeah. So it's just an illustration of, you're really passionate. You're really passionate about doing something, and you just start doing stuff to make a product, and you didn't check the legality of everything and know the steps of everything. And so now this guy had like the biggest hit in the history of I don't know which top 100, or he's like that song has been on the top of the charts longer than any other song in history, right? And with good reason, because someone else wrote part of it. You know what I'm saying? So, and he's not the first rapper to be in this issue. You know, Biz Markie, took some samples and he had to pay for those guys.
Vanilla Ice had to do that with that Under Pressure song.
David Bowie and Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
And
or Queen, or I think it was. I don't remember which one of them.
Yeah.
But that dun.
It was both. It's both. That was a song with David Bowie and Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
On there, Under Pressure, it's both of them.
I guess that's just proof of how big it is. Because typically, something small doesn't attract that much attention unless you just really jack somebody who's paying attention and who actually takes a delight in going after,
But I just see people still making the same mistake. I mean, if Biz Markie made that mistake over 30 years ago, and Lil Nas X is making that mistake now, because no one's sharing this information. Like, listen, you can't just do that. You're setting yourself up for a problem.
Yeah.
There's another way you can make your song and be protected and successful without taking such a huge risk. Peter Guns and who's that other guy? Peter Guns and somebody.
Lord Tariq.
Yeah, they had that song, but they kind of took the hook from a song by Chicago, I think.
Yeah.
They got sued into the ground over that. And so people keep making the same mistake because the information, we're not sharing this information like, hey, it sounds like a great idea today. You're going to wish you was dead next year when it catches up to you. So there's ways to do this and still get what you want, but you're protected.
Yeah.
And it's very important that, I would just go on record right now saying, if you want to do anything business related, talk to a consultant first in that field so you can be protected. Yep. And if you ain't successful, at least you ain't getting sued.
Yeah. Because they know the difference between the trademark and the copyright.
All that legalese. We don't. A common man don't speak legalese, and it's very counterintuitive and tricky and sneaky And you can't apply common sense and common decency to anything business related.
No, because at the end of the day, it's business. And
Yeah.
as Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank says, you will get crushed.
Yeah, because there's too much money in it.
Yeah, if you don't know what
it's
you're
all
doing,
about the
or
money.
you come up, or you start gnawing at the heel of the beast, you will get crushed.
Yeah. And it's funny because so many people start out doing something they love, which is the old adage, if you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. But there comes a time when you're doing something you love and you got to transition into kind of a cutthroat mentality about it at times,
Well, who was it? Which comedian was it that said that he doesn't believe in that adage because that's not true? And he said, he said, I love sitting on my couch and reaching in my pants and scratching my groin, and I love doing that, but I don't see a way to make that a business. So so this whole notion
I bet
of
there's someone
do
who will
what
pay
you
him to say that on the
love.
website.
Yeah, well, maybe there is. This whole notion of doing what you love and the money will come. Not for scratching your groin, it won't.
I think that whole statement is kind of overexposed or overused. I think there's a lot of things that people love to do that they can make money with, but I just don't think that applies to everybody. And
I
a
think
lot
they
of
ended up
times,
saying that basically find something that you like to do that you can make money off of. So again, being more specific, because people like to talk in generalities, because that's a very general statement.
well, if you love to cook, and you became a chef, and you became successful and went to Paris and Milan and Tokyo and Seoul, and you just were traveling the world learning to cook, and your love of cooking took you around the world, and you had a restaurant and colleagues. I think that's a beautiful thing. But not everyone can really do that with what they like to do. And then the other part is, as you get deep into what you like to do, it very much becomes business in ways. Like, any comedian wanted to be funny, and that was their gift. But then they had to embrace the business aspect of being funny, which wasn't so much fun. And if you can't do that,
And to add to that, some people are not cut out for business. They're cut out to do their passion or do whatever it is. So maybe they like cooking, but the business side of it, they're horrible at. They're great at cooking and fantastic in the kitchen, but doing the books, doing the branding, doing the social media, doing the all the different facets of running a business, in the digital age, they suck at, or they don't have the passion for, or they just plain don't know what they're doing. And it's better to hire somebody who does and know that that's taken care of. And that's what we do, because we're an extension of our clients' brands, but it's just that we like the antivirus program we're running in the background. And they at least can focus on their core. And we are focusing on the areas that we have been retained to handle that they need but don't handle. Just like with detailing a car. I remember when I was in college, I used to be fun, but back then it was a sedan. Now it's a truck, and there's a lot more surface area with the truck and height. And after a while, I just can't get it as nowhere near as clean and shiny as the detail shop that I go to.
You're dealing with more area of responsibility now, and you need some help.
Well, not only that, they just do a better job. I mean, because that's their profession. That's what they do. So when they do it, I look at it and then I compare it to what I would do, and it falls short. It's even like cutting your grass. I mean, yes, I can cut my own grass, but when the landscaper comes, like when he does the edges, I can't get those edges. Mine never quite looks as crisp as his, because that's his job.
And he has the tools and the know-how and the systems and the experience to make that happen.
Correct.
And so to me, it's Dirty Harry again. A man's got to know his limitations. You need to know what you do well and don't. And whatever you don't do well, we need teams. We got this individual mindset about everything, but very, very seldom is a person successful alone.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's talked about enough, that how you need a team. I mean, if you do several things well, there's another 50 you don't do well that are needed. And you need team, or you need help. And so you need to talk to a consultant that can walk you through things, just to make you aware of stuff. And then the help is good also.
And you need to pay them. I mean, and pay them because they're good at what they do. Just like my cleaning lady the mirror in the bathroom, I don't care how much Windex I use, I can't get it as clean as she can. Because I don't know what she's using or what happens, but all I know is every time I've tried to do it, it's not working. It's never as clean, or the whole house is never as spotless as when her and the crew come in, because that's what they do. And plus, that allows me to just rest assured and focus on something else, because at least I know that professionals are handling that area of my life that needs to be done. But if I try to do it along with all the other tasks that I have, it's not going to be done properly. And that's the same thing with running a business. If you're the chef, or you're the proprietor at the dispensary or whatever, you have all these core things that you need to do. And you have all these other areas that also need to be addressed in order for the business to grow, for the business to get awareness, which you don't probably have time to do. And if you did try it, you probably wouldn't do a good job. And that's just the reality of it. All right, we're getting to that time where we're gonna have to wrap up here. Is there any thing you want to plug? Anything that's going on?
Hey, look, I just want everyone to just pay attention to what's going on around them and all the opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities going on out there, but we're not in the habit of seeing them for what they are. I have personally walked right past $1 million 3 times in my life, but because it didn't look like $1 million stacked up on the floor, then in hindsight, I can see that I've missed tremendous opportunities because it didn't look like what I was pre-programmed to think $1 million would be. They were people, situations, options, but because it didn't look like a stack of money on the ground, I walked past it and didn't see it for what it is. So, everyone listening, as you out there living your life, and I know you got more than enough stuff to do and not enough hours to do them in, just take some time to kind of see the opportunities around you, because my personal philosophy on life is you can win. You're just not going to win the way you thought.
Good. That's awesome. You can win. You're just not going to win the way you thought. Yeah.
Because we have this. A lot of us in America have a fantasy mindset. We've been shown so much entertainment that it's seeped into the zeitgeist, and we think in fantasy terms. And you can have what you want out of life. It just ain't coming the way to take TV shows. It's not. You can get it. It's not coming the way it did on Laverne and Shirley on that episode that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
You're not going to end up like Michael J. Fox in Secret of My Success, where he went from the mail room to running the company in the boardroom. Life just doesn't really work that way.
I don't know. I've seen people personally go from 0 to 10 in like a year and a half, and go from being.
But that's not the average, and that's not the norm.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is they went from 0 to 10. Their life transformed in a year and a half, but it wasn't the way they thought it would. It was the way it happened. And I don't think enough of us are open to the way things are happening. We're stuck on the way we have been told they should happen, which is oftentimes not by mistake.
Yeah. And on that note, people, check out another episode of Square Talk soon. And we'll be back. Peace.